Stardust, we are stardust, and into stardust we shall return. Stardust, we are stardust, and into stardust we shall return.
And we are now live. Hi, everyone out there in Zoom land and YouTube land. I am Allison Roberts. I'm here from the Clon Bike Festival, and in the daytime I make chocolate. And I'm here with Fionnuala Harkin here from Wines Direct. Hi, Fionnuala. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Allison. Hi, everybody.
And Fionnuala has been a long time advocate of the bicycle festival, I guess you can say, long-time participant, and has come to loads of events. So Justin thought it would be fun to organize an event where Fionnuala and I talk about food basically and bikes, because it's two things that we love and that we do when we're not on bikes. That little film that you saw in the intro was something that just came into us today from our great friends Marcella and Ben in Melbourne, and that's just setting the scene for our discussion. Fionnuala didn't see the video, but it was them having their outdoor coffee today and going cycling in the hills in Melbourne, and they just had a lovely message up of happy 10-year anniversary to the bike festival. So yeah, we thought we'd just have a half an hour little chat, and we've both got some wine. Thank you very much, Fionnuala. And we've got some chocolate.
I'm ready.
Maybe you have some wine and some chocolate, and you want to nibble.
Wine and some chocolate.
There you go. And we could nibble along and have a chat. And a couple admin things Justin said. After this, there's a Zoom link after this at 8:30. There's a Toby Hatchett is going to come on and host our live YouTube end of festival dance party. So you log on to YouTube for that. No, Zoom for that. And the link is in the chat here. And then you can talk to us in the comments and we'll read your questions if you have any questions. So, Fionnuala, what is your earliest Clonakilty Bicycle Festival memory? Maybe we could start there.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I was just thinking today, 10 years. So like Tady and I, my son, have been always the ones that have been together on the bike festival. So he's 21 now. So I was going, crikey, like we must have been at the bike festival when he was 11. And I know I sent a photograph over there of him down at the Onahinsha yoga day out. And that was, I think that was 2015. So obviously that was a couple of years later. The earliest bike festival memory, I mean, crikey, they all blend into each other, you know, but I do remember, like, they do all blend in. I have no idea whether this is an earliest one or a later one or whatever, but certainly thinking about stuff like Meals on Wheels. Like, I remember one of the memorable ones that I love was when we went out to Ring one time, and you were leading probably, Allison, and the next thing, like, we all figured, okay, we're going to DC's, and we drove past DC's, and we're like, what? There's no other restaurant out here. Where the hell are we going? And then outside Kitty Maxx, Ron's Pizzas had set up. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that was the first year, I think. I think that was the first year when Ron had his pizza outside Kitty Maxx. That was, I think it was the first or maybe the second year.
That was fab. And then, because it was kind of good crack, because we obviously assumed we were going to DC's, went out. Ron was doing like flatbreads with hummus and salad and everything. We went into Kitty Maxx and got gin and tonics and beers and whatever else, and sat out on the little grass patch there. And then when we left there, again, as a ruse, you started heading in towards, you know, like South Ring or whatever, like Ballinglana direction. And we were going, oh, where the hell are we going now? There's no right. And then, of course, we just twirled, we did a U-turn and went back in, and we were going to DC's then for like main course or whatever. So what I loved about those, all of the bike festival things was, it was just the crack of meeting in Spar car park and like having no idea where you were going, you know?
I'm glad. And I miss it. That's what I miss.
That was the joy of it. And there was one other one that I remembered today that I thought was so funny, was we were going out to Ring And I don't think it was different from the other Meals on Wheels. I think it wasn't a Meals on Wheels. It was a planned dinner where we were going to, I can't remember the woman's name now, but she has a B&B
Oh
in
yeah,
Ring, and
with
she
the
looks after
fish.
fishermen. The fish, exactly. So anyhow, there was a limited number, obviously, as there would be, and Tady wanted to go, but there was no space. And to be
And
fair,
he was
Justin,
still
I think
very young. I remember him being quite young still.
he was probably 15 or 16, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember Justin was saying, oh, maybe I feel bad, maybe I should give Tady my place. I was going, don't be daft, Tady will be absolutely fine. So I gave Tady a fiver and said, go back home and get your sandwiches on the way home. So Tady goes into Monk's Lane, right? And tells them in Monk's Lane that his mother is at this fancy, bike festival dinner, and he couldn't go. And basically, I gave him a fiver and told him to get chips. So of course they felt so sorry for him in Monk's Lane that he got like a full dinner in Monk's Lane.
I remember that, and that was the little house that we went into.
Exactly.
That was lovely.
So
and Tady was just like, I'm just coming for the cycle. I'm just coming for the cycle. Like Tady, she really told me there were no extra spaces. I'm just coming for the cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really bad, Tady. I'm feeling really bad, Tady.
That was so funny. But anyway, he actually ended up being very well looked after, because Michelle and Gavin down in Monk's Lane were like, oh, poor Tady, that's terrible. We'll give you proper food. So he got this fantastic dinner down in Monk's Lane anyway with his fiver.
We had one that I think the very first one we had was it Nisreen doing the Syrian food? What was that, the very first year? No.
I definitely remember one of Nisreen's, yeah.
At the
she had a truck out the Inchydonny Road, and she had Syrian coffee as well, didn't she?
The whole, the thing with Meals on Wheels is I always had a budget, and I was always trying to do it so that it was affordable. Like one thing for the bicycle festival, all the events are free basically, except for Meals on Wheels, which obviously we have to pay for the food. But we operate on a budget anyway, so we want to always make it kind of accessible. So it was usually, I think it started off at 25 euros, and then in the last year it was 35 euros. But still, like, it's pretty reasonable. It was always 4 stops, like mystery stops for food, which is amazing. But it was always like, so for the appetizers and the desserts and stuff, it was a small enough budget for the people to work with. But I just say, like, look, we're having 4 stops, so don't go all out. But like Nisreen went all out. I just remembered she was there, and her mum was over, and I think her sister was there too. And they just made the most amazing spread. And they had, I'm probably getting things mixed up too. They had, was that the one? Oh no, that was, they had this huge spread. And then at the same location, in another year, I'm remembering, we had sushi, and there was sashimi.
Yeah.
And I'm remembering the same location, and people just being like, had never tried sashimi before. And they were having their first experience of sashimi at the Bike Fest. And I'm just going, what is this raw fish? You can eat raw fish? And I was like, yay! Like, just those moments of pure food joy when you realize somebody hasn't tried something that's one of the most exciting foods ever. And you're just like, I can't wait for you to try it. I'm so excited. You're trying it like here with us during the Bike Festival, having the crack. And I just love those moments.
At the side of the water.
At the side of the,
because it was just there at the kind of at the bay, Clonakilty Bay.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember the sushi, and I remember Nisreen, because I actually remember her food was amazing. And I remember the Syrian coffee, which we all had the Syrian coffee after, which was kind of a sweet, like a coffee with, like, I don't know, cinnamon or one of those sort of warm spices in it, which was gorgeous, And actually another one on that theme of different foods that you'd never had before was the time we went up to the Clonakilty Lodge to the community garden.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
And all the women, I remember the baklava, which is that beautiful sweet honey and nut kind of pastry thing. I have never in my life tasted anything so amazing.
That was another one that we had. I think that was the one that was, because we had 2 years. The first one, like, it was maybe 5 years ago. No, it would have been 7 years ago, right before I was pregnant. We had one that was the Meals on Wheels Extreme, and we went up to Vic and Deb's. We went far, and there was hills involved. And then the next year we had, because I was heavily pregnant, we had like a mini Meals on Wheels that we didn't have to go as far. And that's when we went to the lodge, and we did like a loop of places that were kind of in town and not so far, because I was heavily pregnant. Still wanted to do Meals on Wheels.
I know, well, it was perfect. Yeah, perfect. And then of course the finish up being, because I remember one of those years, the finish up was always a mystery, but then everybody was saying, Ray Blackwell was spotted in the market buying loads of cheese.
Oh yeah, that was the first year. I think that was the first year.
Was that? Yeah.
Or so we were like, the second year.
Yeah, so there was a great finish up party.
Right. And there was always rumors. I think that was the best thing too. People are like, well, where are we going? And I was like, and I wouldn't even tell Justin. I was like, I'm not telling anyone. And then there'd be rumors, and I'd organize with Marie on the lane, and someone who worked there mentioned it, and I was like, the rumor got out, and I know where you guys are going because I heard it. Don't tell anyone. It's like my moment to be at like pure control freak heaven, just being like, I'm in control and nobody can know anything but me.
I know
great fun. And we had awesome, like we had some great kids on those rides too. And like, I think the bike festival over 10 years, we just saw some amazing kids grow up. And I still think of them as like small children, because we'd have them at the family days, and then we'd have them coming along on the cycles. And then maybe I haven't seen them for the last few years, and you see them now, and they're like 14, 15,
they're
16. You're like, oh, that's why you don't come to the kids' day anymore. You're huge. Yeah. I think that's the nice thing about even just having a, Ray Blackwell was one of the ones who he really encouraged us, even like, I think from year 2, and just said, guys, this is amazing. My main advice is no matter what happens, just keep the festival going, pick your weekend, keep it going. Even if you have to do it super small one year because something's happening, if you can just do something every year, because the minute you take a break, it just slips. That's what happens with these kind of things. So that's why I think during these 2 last years where we couldn't have the normal kind of festivals, we just thought it was important to do something online to remind us to keep our kind of passion going, because usually on the weekend, by the end of the weekend, we're kind of exhausted, but right after, what are we going to do next year?
Yeah, exactly. Even doing the coffee outside Clon yesterday was great, because we like being able to say, right, let's just do that thing. Even you can pick your events, which you'd always do anyway. There was some years I think we were at everything. I know there was a couple of years where I just actually took my holidays from work, from the Friday to the Monday, and being like, this is like going away to a festival, but it's just actually in Clon, so that you could sort of really enjoy the whole thing and do from the Thursday night when it would launch or whatever. But yesterday being like to Tadey, because he started working, actually, funny enough that you did the one up in Devon Vix, they've opened a restaurant up there now, the Field Kitchen. So he started working up there. So they opened officially today for the first time. But saying yesterday, like, let's go out, let's do the coffee outside Clon. So it was just kind of lovely to get yourself like organized to say, right, we'll get all this stuff, and also, where we'd go and how we'd be able to make the coffee. And, I love the one, your man that wanted, as I saw, with the solar coffee heater. Like, it's just brilliant. And I think
that was
that's
awesome.
That was always a theme that went through the whole thing, was the whole idea of, sustainability, which is so important, and why bicycles are so important. And we were talking earlier on about independence, and you were talking about in West Africa, where the bicycle is so important for children to be able to actually go to school or go to work, or somebody can get from somewhere because they have a bicycle. And because we live in the country, I wasn't going to be driving the kids everywhere, so I was like, lads, you have to cycle, get on your bikes, head off. But the independence of that, I think, is astonishing. And I actually think it's really, really important nowadays, because I think, sorry, this is maybe going off on another tangent, but kids are often really given not enough independence at all, and not given, they're a bit too minded, and they're a bit too brought here and there and mollycoddled. Whereas really, to be able to, obviously there's dangers out there on the road, but there's, you have to learn how to be safe, and wear your high vis and wear your helmet, and be careful and be aware and know the dangers, but still be able to do things.
I think one of the coolest thing, like, on that about being on a bike is no matter what age you are, you come home like super proud of yourself, don't you? Like, I'm sure Tadey at 11, or Tadey now, still comes home and is like, I just went and cycled off and did my own thing. And like, I'm still like that, and we've been running this festival for 10 years. I went on Justin did a Zoom fractal cycle this morning where he was rolling dice here, and we were riding our bikes with Zoom on, and he was telling us directions like randomly. So people in different parts of the country were just taking lefts and rights, And I had Ari on the back, and we were cycling around. I got home and I was just like, I had that joy, again, of being like, I just did an awesome bike ride. And you don't really get that in other modes. Like, even going for a walk doesn't give you that same, like, I just did something totally awesome. And when you do it on your own and you have like an adventure, you go meet up with your friends and you're a teenager and you're like, I'm going to go cycle off, I'm going to meet with my friends, I'm going to have my independence, I'm going to come home. You come home with this different kind of, you can kind of have a little swagger. You're like, I did that. I took myself around with my own body, which is a good segue to taking yourself around with your own body is like a good way to experience other countries and cultures with biking. So that maybe you could maybe tell us a bit, or maybe you could first tell us a bit about this beautiful wine that I'm drinking.
Okay, well, so the wines that we have, in actual fact, these are both from Spain, and I'm holding up the one here with the label. It's Neleman, it's a Dutchman, and your one is the white one is different to Nuclei, which is basically about the nucleus and the sort of heart and soul of. He's really all about like sustainability, biodynamics, organics, all that kind of stuff. And the bicycle on the label has loads of significance. He's Dutch. So the designer's kind of half slagging and being like, you're a Dutchman, of course, you're on a bike and you're wearing clogs, but also because where possible, they have bodegas, like a little wine shop in Amsterdam. I think they have 3 or 4, but the vineyard is in Spain. But wherever they can, they deliver the wine by bicycle because they're all about finding the most sustainable way of delivering stuff. So the bicycle is the first point in terms of sustainability for delivering the wines. And they're all about diversity and inclusion, so it's really all about the diverse group of people they work with. So it's really good wine. He also has a wine called Just Effing Good Wine, except it doesn't say effing, but I'm going to be really polite now because there could be children listening. But he talks about good wine to save the world. So it's really about sustainability. And look at when we're talking about the bike, that starts you off on that thing of, as you say, propelling yourself just with your body. But the wine is gorgeous. I'm on the Tempranillo Monastrell, which is the red, and Allison, you have the Macabeo Sauvignon Blanc, and Macabeo is an indigenous Spanish grape. So they're really about as well indigenous grape varieties. They live in a national park, so it's all about nature and stuff as well.
And have you visited these guys?
No, we would. I mean, I would have visited quite a few of the vineyards, but we only started taking these guys in over COVID. So in actual fact, I've had a few Zoom calls with Derek Neleman, cool. And we've done some wine tastings with restaurants where they put together a food platter and then we do the wine, and then the winemaker comes on and does a chat and talks about everything. So it's definitely one of the vineyards that I want to go and visit, as part of the long list of things, but he's definitely one of the ones that I want to go back. And I'd say he'll definitely be over here. So no doubt in time he'll be doing an event in some restaurant in Clonakilty or like that out in Ardfield or down in Monks Lane or somewhere. I would imagine that he'll be around.
And so when you go off touring vineyards, what would be your top countries?
Well, I suppose I love France. I'm a real lover of France. And in actual fact, we were talking earlier on about the fact that myself and my sister did a cycling holiday in France. And actually, I have another wine here, Macon Village, which is a white Burgundy that I've just have a little tiny drop of left in my glass. And we went cycling through Burgundy. And I don't have a favorite wine region in the world. I love Italy as well. And Italy's this massively diverse country because it's so long. It goes all the way from essentially Austria in the north down to basically Africa in the south. So you've got everything, all the different types of wines in there. But going on a trip, and you've spoken about wine and food, and obviously you go all the way as far as Africa when it comes to the coffee and wine. You can go all around the world. I'm a mad fan of Europe. It's like I consider Europe local. I mean, as in when we talk about local food and local, when you're in Australia, they talk about local produce or things being in season, but it could be all the way from Perth. And you could be in Sydney. So for us in Europe, I definitely think that the wines, I would consider them like our local wines. We're not going to be making wine in Ireland anytime soon, But going to Burgundy is very accessible. Going to France is very accessible because, well, you can get the boat over. And obviously nowadays I do fly, and I did fly the last time we went there. But I love nothing more than heading off. Tim and I have a semi-camper van. We get the boat over from Cork to Roscoff, and we travel down through France. We have our bikes in the back. And in fact, we were stopped by the customs guys look in the back of your van because you obviously have a van full of wine when you come back from France. And they're like, all right, so did you do much cycling? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, every single day we cycled from the campsite to a cafe and back again. And then at night time we cycled from the campsite to a restaurant and back again. So it was all about where you could go on bike to get good food.
And that's just all the memories of traveling and going on that boat are just flooding back to me. And we went the year before the lockdown, we went over in a van. Normally, because we don't have a motorized vehicle, so normally we just have the bikes on the boat. So we're kind of a bit limited, or we'll do a big spin. But we had a van once, and we had the bikes on the back with Ari, and the van broke down, and we were in Torino in Turin, and we ended up having to stay there for 10 days, I think it was in the end, and I'm just checking Justin for facts. It was more like 5 days, but it felt like 10. It was amazing. And we just cycled around, and it actually ended up being, it's one of Europe's chocolate capitals. So it was heaven. But like the bike enables you to kind of pop in much easier. Like we were going to drive right by Turin, and we just were breaking down on the highway. So we had to pull in, and we just had the most beautiful 6 days, even though we were a bit stressed because the van was broken down, but just exploring. There's this big river that runs right through, and it's all bike paths. And then it's just, food and cafes and Italy. And it's just, everything is, just fresh. And you go into a grocery store and it feels like a market, everything just feels fresh, and food and picnics. And I wonder, we have some photos here Justin's going to put on. Do you want to talk us through one of your bike holidays that you've been on?
Well, actually, just again on that thing, Allison, about the food in Turin, actually I think that's the center of where the slow food movement started. So the idea that you're on a bike in Turin makes an awful lot of sense, because you will not see things, if you're driving or even getting public transport, whereas when you're on a bike, you're going to see, you're going to see in the window of those places and be like, oh, actually, we should go in there and have a look, Tell me when the slideshow starts. I can't see it, but
he's put it on now. There's a photo of you sitting on a nice piece of wood with a glass of wine.
Okay, so this was a couple of years ago. Myself and my sister went on a cycling trip down through Burgundy, and it was only a short trip, actually, only a few days. It was for her birthday, but it was really lovely. And I must say, and anybody who's interested in doing something like that there, I have all the details still. And so our trip was about cycling. We just did 2 full days of cycling, so it was like a short trip. And I took something from the Lonely Planet. They had a 7-day trip through Burgundy. And Burgundy is a wine region in France where the white wines are all from Chablis all the way down to Macon, all 100% Chardonnay, everything from fresh, crisp whites in the north to richer, fuller bodies in the south. And all the reds are Pinot Noir, pretty much. So it's a gorgeous wine region, sort of gently rolling hills. Nothing was too madly strenuous. Food-wise, Epoisse cheese, they're big into their kind of duck and stuff like that there as well, but also beautiful cheeses, beautiful produce. I mean, we had gorgeous food. I can't, like, all kinds of different things. But and when you talk, Allison, about the picnics, going into a town, I think there might be a photograph. There's a photograph in the middle of this somewhere. What's there?
No, just going to towns. I know you're going to say markets.
Markets.
You find yourself in a French town and the market's on.
So the market's on, and you buy some charcuterie and you buy some cheese, and then you see a sign. One tip that I'm going to give you, right? If you go into a town, there's a big glitzy sign for like a winery. That's going to be the local cooperative, which is fine, but it's all the grapes of all the farmers pooled in to make, a pretty generic, whatever, grand wine. Whereas what you want to find is the hand painted sign with an arrow saying, 500 meters down this lane. That's the guy that you want to go to. So there's a picture of me with the woman in, and I can't even remember the name of it now, but it's probably on the thing. Chablis, went into her spot. We saw the big glitzy, but it's the big glitzy place, and I went, nah, this is not where we want to be. Look for the hand painted sign down the lane. Went in there, dirt floor, a few barrels. You had to call in the yard. There's usually a dog will come to meet you first, and then you give a shout, bonjour, hello, anybody around, and somebody will come out and show you the wine. Tasted some gorgeous wines, bought a bottle of wine. We were on bicycles and we had the pannier, and we were just literally whatever we could carry. So bought the bottle of wine. Went to the town, as you said, market, bought some lovely cheese and charcuterie and bread and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a photograph there, definitely, of me sitting by a river, with the packages open from the market and the bottle of wine. And like that is one of the joys of life. And like, we're so lucky now in Ireland, because I know years ago we used to always think of those things as only being in France, whereas literally every Friday, and not even after Friday, go into Letter Column any day of the week, or go into Super Value, or you can pick up really, really great stuff. And a nice bottle of wine and go, like, coffee outside Clon, wine outside Clon. Be careful cycling with alcohol. That's all I'm going to say to you, right? That's not a good idea. But, stopping by the river, having your glass of wine and the picnic. And then we're cycling through, there's a photograph there you'll definitely see of me with like the vineyards out behind me, and that's the vineyards of Chablis. And Chablis is a wine region in the north of Burgundy. But I had picked out a little place, and actually there's one photograph of us standing outside. We hired bikes from this guy, and it was so funny, right? It was in an old water station, and your man was we said we were from Ireland. I worked in Ireland. I worked for those fucking guys in Google, like in Cork. So you're so funny because everywhere you go in Ireland, you meet, or in the world, you meet somebody. He said he worked in tech, gave it all up, hated the life, and opened a bike shop. And he opened it in this old water pump station, but he didn't take any of the big old machines out of it. He just put the bikes in all around it. So it was this gorgeous old building on a river with all the bikes, and then all these great big old water pumping machines all around the place. So he was fab. We hired the bikes from him in a place called Auxerre, and we picked out sort of nice, like not hotel-y type accommodation, but more like the next town we stayed in was Noyer-sur-Sereine, which is a river, and it was a 13th century tower building that they had, like, you know, it was rooms, it was accommodation, they had breakfast or whatever. And then the last place we stayed in was a town called Vézelay, that is famous for this lovely basilica up on the top, the hilltop town. And it was just one room over an art gallery run by this couple. He was the artist, he was a sculptor, you know, and they just had one room. And to be fair, I found them all in the Lonely Planet, and some of them weren't even on, you know, Google or bookings.com or TripAdvisor. You couldn't find them. But that's why I love the Rough Guide and the Lonely Planet, is they still have little gems like that there. These guys weren't on any social media because they had one room, you know. So
Yeah.
And we just picked these really gorgeous places, cycled from place to place. But like, what was really funny was when we were cycling into Noyer, we were late because we could never, Allison, you were talking about the food as well. We could never manage to leave early because we'd always get up in the morning and have some breakfast and wander around the town and go to the market and do all that kind of stuff. So by the time we were leaving, it was always kind of middle of the day. But when we arrived in the town, we cycled into the town. I remember it was like really quiet. You know the way those French towns are very quiet of an evening, and you could hear the bikes rattling over the cobblestones. And the next thing, this man shouts out, bonsoir, est-ce que vous êtes les familles hollandaises? Are you my Irish women? And we're like, oh my God, yeah. He goes, I've been waiting for you. I thought you were lost. he came looking for us, you know, to bring us back to the B&B. And then, of course, what was lovely as well was I didn't book anywhere to eat because I knew that the people in the accommodation would know. I was like, where should we eat? He's like, I phoned my friend Laurence. I'll get you a table, you know, in this best little, you know, small little restaurant, whatever. And then we go in there, and, you know, so that organic way of finding your way around a country is just so gorgeous and so easy to do on a bike where your schedule isn't so rigid.
Yeah, and I think like Ireland has a lot of that. I mean, I'm Canadian, but like living here, there's so much of that here, but there's also the tendency to kind of think, you know, we need to get bigger, you know, your business needs to be bigger, you need to be, you know, have more rooms for rent, you have to be bigger, everything. But when you travel abroad, it's just that, like, it's the small places, the intimate places that make your heart just like full of joy. And when you're eating, and to have like something that's like feels like a mom and pop, it's always been my standards, like, does it feel like this is like a mom and pop establishment? Do I feel like at least one step removed from the owners, if not probably meeting the owners right now? And that's like, I think that's the way we both like to do business too. Like, you're in control, you know, and when you run business and you do business that way, it is much easier to be sustainable because you are responsible for all the decisions and talking about the company. So you can really say, you know, you can really own and know what you're representing. I think it's a lot, and just to celebrate that. I think Ireland really needs to, and I wish our kind of enterprise boards and that would celebrate that small businesses are definitely worth encouraging and celebrating, because they do bring like this charm and twinkle to places that you don't get from a really big established commercial businesses. And food especially, like, so like small food is just the best.
I totally agree. And I think there's very much a move back to that. But also, when you're the owner of the business, like you are, and you're dealing with the end user all the time, like, you know exactly who your customers are. And that, I think that's really crucial. I mean, you're talking about an establishment, be it a restaurant or a hotel, where the owner of the restaurant is the person actually serving you the coffee.
Yeah,
like
and it's that, small, and appreciating.
Yeah.
It means you appreciate every customer, like, in a different way. They're not numbers, they're like humans. You know what they're enjoying. Fionnuala, it's actually, you wouldn't believe it, it's actually 8:31 already.
What? How did that happen?
We only got through one quarter of what we were going to talk about.
I'm just saying, I'm having coffee and cocoa chocolate.
I was going to say
that's going to work.
I was going to say that. I thought that would be a good one. I would have thought that would have been nice. That might have been the one I might have gone white wine. I wouldn't really pair, because chocolate, when it gets cold, it's kind of gritty in your teeth. But
this
yeah,
with the red is perfect.
I
But
think
listen,
the
I
darker
can't
the
believe
better
time
too.
went so quickly. Huh?
I think the darker the better, if you can go as dark as you can. But thank you so much, Fionnuala. That was great.
Oh, that
This
was
is
so
great
lovely. I can't believe the time
great
flew
to
by.
chat. And like already, we can't wait next year. I mean, next year
Yeah, it'll be real.
We're gonna have to like have some seriously cool surprises in store to come back out of
It'll
this.
be amazing.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
wait.
everybody who is here, please feel free to pop over now to Zoom, where Justin's put a link up in the chat, and we will see you for a boogie with Toby Hatchett in a minute.
We'll have a dance around the kitchen.
Thank you so much,
See you
Fionnuala.
later.
Thanks for the wine.
Take care. Bye bye. See you. Bye. Bye bye.